Hello, everybody. How is everyone? Just move this. Try to get a little more like this. Hope everybody's all right. And we are live once again for another show. Like I said, somebody in the past with its live shows. Welcome aboard, everybody. And this is the Shortwave Radio Show. We are live twice a week. Hope everybody's all right. Hope everybody is doing well. A little different point of view, but all it has to do with Mr. Paul that's just behind the camera right now. So, So let me check if everything's all right. And it is. It seems to. And we're going to, of course, start the show. Voice of Vietnam. Really strong right now, 7315. Via WHRI in the USA. In Cypress Creek. So really good signal, as you see here. Really powerful signal there. Voice of Vietnam, 7315. In English, welcome, everyone. So, let me just a little bigger. Because when you get older, you need to, you don't see stuff. It's nice to have all of you here. Really cool to have everybody here, by the way. And let me just move this here. This. Like this. And we're all right. We are ready to go. So today, of course, we have some questions from a few people that are not in the chat room, but enjoy, of course, the show. Before we start, we have check-in through email from Elizabeth that says hello from Regina, Saskatchewan. We have Robert that is in the UK that says hello. It's late, but I like your show. And I'm watching. And no, it's not the coronavirus. Don't go crazy, okay? And I didn't cough in the microphone, so you should be okay. Gotta laugh, there's way too much news about that anyways. So let's put a couple of rules tonight. No coronavirus, no politics, and no religion. 3 rules. No coronavirus, no politics, and no religion. We'll keep it at that tonight. We'll just stay in the shortwave and into radio in general. We have Esteban that is checking in also through email. He says that he found my live show for the first time last week. He's been enjoying it. He doesn't have a radio right now, but he says that he really remembers when he was younger, listening to shortwave, and that I actually apparently brought him back into nostalgia, talking about shortwave radio. And he says that he's going to be watching tonight. So Esteban is in Chile, in South America. So welcome aboard, Esteban. And that's pretty much it. And of course, we have a beautiful chat room. If you have a Gmail account, why not say hello to everybody? I mean, this is one of the great places where people are respectful, helpful, and we just have fun with radio. Also, there's the Facebook group, official SWL channel, where everybody is. That's where we continue the discussion of shortwave when all of this is over. And last but not least, I got an email a half an hour ago saying, "Hey, you're not on," and it's I was waiting for you. Yeah, in North America, our show is 1 hour later now, because remember, if you look at the show as UTC time, is always the same. But here in North America, we did change our time. We are now in the daylight savings time. So we moved our clocks 1 hour ahead. That also means that 0 UTC is 8 p.m. Eastern rather than 7 p.m. Eastern now, and 5 p.m. Pacific rather than 4. And that's where we are at. And don't forget, this Friday, the show will be at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, rather than 3 p.m. like usual. Why? Once again, we changed our time. But if you set your clock to UTC, and if you just accept that we are using UTC time only, you will always be at the correct time. I got a few people also that we were talking about this week that told me, "Wow, my radio stayed at UTC," and you know what? It's a complex relation. When we start talking about time and the relation of our local time versus UTC time, it's easy to be lost in understanding it. I mean, I remember when I went back and I started listening to Shortwave in the 80s and understood that we all in the hobby, amateur radio, and not just amateur radio. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that actually rely on UTC, amateur radio, shortwave radio. But I mean, the military, whatever, UTC is our time frame. Why? Because it's always the same, and we always can know what reference we have with UTC. And that's why universal time actually existed. So, one of the problems with UTC is understanding that it always stays the same. It's easy because a couple of the messages that I got, and I mean, every 6 months when we change our time, we pretty much have the same discussion. How come my clock is right and we change our time? How come my radio is right and we changed our time? And it's always with people that have their clocks set to UTC on their radios, on their clocks. And that's the tough part, explaining that we locally change our time. So here in North America, except for, Saskatchewan, Arizona, and a few other places, most of us moved our clocks ahead 1 hour last Sunday. What is difficult is everybody sees that the UTC time and the clock are the same, which gives the impression that UTC has changed, which is not. The only thing that changed is our local time. UTC stays the same. So when we moved ahead so here in the Eastern time zone, and we take the reference of 0 hours UTC, in the winter time, we are 5 hours behind UTC. So 7 p.m. Eastern is 0 UTC. The thing is, we moved our clocks ahead 1 hour. We moved from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. But UTC has stayed the same. Our reference changed to 4 hours behind UTC rather than 5. And there's a lot of misunderstanding that UTC changes somehow. It never does. If all the world would live in UTC, would always know exactly what time it is. And there would never be any changes. Nothing would be different year long. We'd all know our reference to UTC. But we live in a world where our time zone is local. And there are several time zones around the world. There are dozens. And what happens is every time zone is in a reference to UTC. And if you change that time zone, it changes your reference to UTC. UTC hasn't changed. UTC is always the same. UTC is always UTC. The only change in UTC that happens is those leap seconds that are added every year now and then to make sure that our clocks and universal time and just the general time around us is on stays always the same, or in a reference that is close to the same in a solar orbit and all of that. And it's a complex thing to sometimes understand, and it's easy to get mixed up. Not counting, and you know what? This week I had my regular mishap, my regular messing up of time. I would posted a few things in the shortwave group, and looking back at it, thought, oh, I messed up the UTC. It's not 21. It's 20 UTC, or it's 22 UTC. I simply was still in my time frame of the winter time. That's why I always say your shortwave radios, the clock on those radios should always be in UTC. Why? Because it's a shortwave radio. A shortwave radio, you listen to the world. It doesn't have to be local time on that clock. UTC time is that clock. That's why I like having a big clock like this with UTC reference on it. I always, if I'm not sure, or if I don't want to think, because honestly, we think. Everybody thinks about, okay, what time in UTC? So when you look at the time, I'm looking at 8:10 p.m. right now here local. Well, I go in my brain and say 8:10, so it's 4 hours. It's 0:10 UT. But if I don't want to think about it, I don't want to, have to deal with that. What is the difference with UTC and whatever? Having a clock set to UTC all the time makes it simple. You look at the clock. Oh, it's 0:11 UT. That's it. No going crazy. No trying to figure out after a time change what happens. One of the things also that makes it complicated in UTC and local is the radio stations on shortwave, and that I don't understand, honestly. So WRMI is an example. Voice of Turkey is an example. Even Radio Romania is an example. When the time changes, they shift their programs 1 hour. Why do you do that? Always stick with UTC. Voice of the Reporter of the Week, John, that has that show, was mentioning how it seemed to be a little annoyed at the fact that, in WRMI, the time change meant that it shows we're moving into a different time slot. And he didn't kind of find it super cool. And I totally understand. There's no need for that. And I don't even understand why they do that. Why do you change your shows 1 hour because our local time changes? Shortwave is universal. It's just UTC. We should not be changing that. I never understood why Voice of Turkey changes its time in the summer when European time changes, like Radio Romania. What are you doing? It's UTC. Forget about local. I understand probably the idea behind it is adapting to a local audience, but you're not. You're actually not. What you're doing, and so see, Voice of Turkey, when Europe changes its clock, Voice of Turkey will move to 22 instead of 23, something like that. Why? Why? I don't understand why you're doing that. It's weird. There are things like that I just don't get. The majority of broadcasters stay on a UTC schedule and never change, but it happens. But that just adds to us being all messed up. And what exactly is the time? What exactly is the when is it that broadcast going to be? So of course, I was in there last night. Last night I started tuning around, and it was 10 p.m. Eastern. So 10 p.m. Eastern is in the wintertime when I was used to, getting Radio Prague and Radio Slovakia, 93, 95 WRMI. So I understand 10 p.m. Eastern last night was the same thing. They switched their schedule to fit that local time. North America is always the same. But it's UTC we live in, and that shouldn't happen. We should just, go with the flow. We change 1 hour. That's when it's going to happen. But it's a complex thing, so it makes it difficult for a lot of people to have that reference and understand why this is that time, and it's easy to get mixed up. I get mixed up, and I mean, I've been doing this for like 35 plus years. Actually, year 2020 in August, I'll be listening officially, because it's more than that. I'm probably at the 40 years of radio listening, but that I have a knowledge and that I know what it is. For me, my reference starts when I got my Realistic DX100. And when I got that was August of 82. So that means that this year, 2020, marks 38 years in August, 38 years of active shortwave radio listening. 38 years. Kind of makes me a little older, like a lot of us anyways. A lot of us have been in the hobby for a long time. And talking about that, this coming Friday is nostalgia time. This coming Friday, we will hear and talk about voices from the past that are gone, that existed at one point. We'll hear interval signals. We'll hear some programming. I'll actually discuss and try to give you guys that have not been in there that period of time what it was to listen to shortwave in the 80s and so on. So this coming Friday, better get those tissues, because you're going to cry or something, because you're going to think when you were younger listening to the radio. So official SWL channel, Facebook group, great place to be to continue when this show ends. And of course, when this show is happening, it's a lot of fun to be here. Tonight, I've got 3 ounces of vodka, 7-Up, and cranberry juice. Cheers, everybody. And we start the show now. Matt, nice to have you here. MDK2 in Colorado. Of the Dawn, nice to have you on board, and we will not get sick here. Jake Kramer, nice to have you on board, my friend. Icadarius, nice to have you on board. Mitch, nice to have you here. Leo S, nice to have you here from California. Terry Cook, nice to have you on board from Western Montana, KF7BQ. Crittenden Tuttle 4, nice to have you here. RSPDX arrives tomorrow. Woohoo! You're going to love it. I actually now have 3 antennas on my RSPDX. So all A, B, and C connectors have a antenna on them. A is the W6 LVP loop. B is the original MLA30 loop. And C is the MLA30 Plus loop. So it's nice. I can switch together. And I've done one thing. Since I don't use a lot of the W6 LVP, I went outside and I changed the orientation. So the W6 LVP is actually at 90-degree angle from my MLA30 loops. And there's a few things I'm going to talk about a little later that is interesting with the fact that I did that change. Bobby Burgess, WA5107 SWL. Nice to have you here from Morgan City, Louisiana. Mr. Lucky Train, nice to have you here from Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Nice to have you here. Hoping you'll tell us more about your experience with the updated version of the MLA30. We will, absolutely. Mr. Lucky Train says, does the new MLA30 say version 2 on it? It just has a plus sign on it. So both the power inserter, if you use the bias T, that comes with it, has MLA30 plus. Both the antenna itself has MLA30 plus. So really, there's a plus sign on it. And that's the way right now, that's pretty much the only way that I can see that that is um the new version, honestly. Bob from Massachusetts, nice to have you here. Hi, Brawler, nice to have you here from Arkansas. Anybody getting on 13775? I got nothing here on 13775, unfortunately. Keegan in Northwest Arkansas, nice to have you here. William Powell, nice to have you on board. Can you get the MLA 30 plus, I guess? And if you're quiet enough, yes, it can be said in the house. WHP 1390, nice to have you on board. Rick from Ohio. Rufus Newt, nice to have you on board from the QTH of the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Pablo, nice to have you here from Buenos Aires, Argentina. ¿Cómo está, mi amigo? Donde Argentina. Jerry DX, nice to have you here. Jeff King from Jacksonville, Florida. Nice to have you here. Gaëtan Bellil, bonsoir, bienvenue. Nice to have you on board, my friend. Larry from Georgia. Nice to have you on board. Going down. We are going down. So we have Indy Packrat. Nice to have you here in South Bend, Indiana. W88250SWL. Checking in. Kevin Wood from Nova Scotia, Canada. Matt, voice of Vietnam, good signal for a change. Not great, but I'll take it. Rodelva65 from New York City. Cool. It's not a new sweater. It's an old sweater. I just don't wear it very often during the live shows. Rufus Newt, 7315, pegging my needle. Jerome, nice to have you here. Jerome from North Carolina. Radioactive, nice to have you on board. There was a joke this week that I liked. Is people were sharing if you get the coronavirus, you take a little bit of lime. it's gonna cure you. Brian Penny, nice to have you here, my friend. And says, I told you Mr. Paul would give your sweater back. Yeah, he's got my YouTube hoodie. Actually, this would make a great ad. Look at that, guys. Okay, I'm going to show you Paul, and you're going to see he's really on my official Shortwave hoodie. Let's go down and go here. And look at that, guys. Look at Mr. Paul on my YouTube hoodie, sleeping right now like a little baby. Right here. Look at that. YouTube hoodie. Paul is really sleeping on my YouTube hoodie. It was just so funny. And usually I'm supposed to be there, by the way. But I'm not tonight. So, anyways, we'll get back to our local show here. So, anyways, as you guys can see, yes, Paul takes everything that I own and wears it or sleeps on it or whatever. Vince Perrault, salut et bienvenue. Toujours un plaisir de t'avoir parmi nous. Indy Packrack, looking at picking up a decent, affordable portable. Any thoughts on the PL600? You know what? Go with the so if you want a Texan, go with a PL660 or 880. But for the same price, I would say 660. You'll have better performance, and you'll also have synchronous detection that the PL600 doesn't have. It's not that it's a bad radio, but it has a harsh audio. And, you might want to look at a XH Data D808. That also is a great radio. Crittenden Total 4 says, hi, Esteban. Jill helped me get back into shortwave as well. A lot of people A lot of people came back to shortwave or amateur radio because they watched my show and they had that thing, that radio in a corner of their basement, thinking, you know what, maybe it's over. And then they find this guy doing a live show from Canada and showing them, you know what, you still can do a lot with radio. You still can listen to shortwave. You still can do that amateur radio hobby of yours, you know. Learn Nigel Lawrence, nice to have you on board from Northwest England, UK. Jerome from North Carolina. Dear Forestry, nice to have you on board. Jill looking good in that woman get her sweater. I like that. A woman get her sweater. I imagine going into a store and saying, "Well, do you have a one of those woman getter sweaters?" I imagine a guy like, "What? Yeah, you got one of those women getter sweaters. When you wear it, women are always there." Matt Hallows, nice to have you here. Any day ideas on changing the type of loop on the MLA30? Flat bar, copper, or aluminum? You know what? There's a couple of people out there that have done modifications to the MLA30, including bigger loop. Some have used thin copper tubing, made the loop bigger, and adjusted the circuitry. And they say that it actually is better. I plan to do a lot of tests with that because now that I have 3 MLA30s, it's time to test. Now, but I got an MLA30 Plus, and I'm like almost want another MLA30 Plus now because I'm crazy. But anyways, hey, another Esteban, this time from Canary Islands. Nice to have you here, Esteban. You know, Esteban reminds me of one of my best friends when I was in high school. Through high school, there was a guy. He was from, I think, Honduras. And we went through high school, and we were like really close friends all the time. And his name was Esteban. Esteban always remembers when I went into college, we lost each other, and I never saw him again. I would have loved to keep in touch with him. James Powers, nice to have you here. KC1ENJ. Jim. And says hello to Elizabeth and everybody else. Sean Maclitz, nice to have you on board. You know what, Dear Forestry, I'm going to do tests. One of the things that's interesting about, so you're talking about changing the material in the MLA30 loop. One of the things I've seen that a lot of MLA30 owners did was change or add a connector to the MLA30 box to have, BNC connector or whatever, so they could put their own high quality coax on it. And that is a very mixed bag of results, honestly, because what I see is there's a big chunk of tweakers out there that did the change and said no difference, and there's some of you that I respect, and not just respect. I see your results, and I'm like, yeah, man, maybe I should try it, and seem to say it's better. And I'm curious. I'm really curious. This is where it's interesting. You know what? The MLA30, okay, for the price that it is, can be a hobbyist adventure. Why not buy more than one? A W6 LVP like I have at $600 Canadian. You buy one, and you're not going to buy another one unless you really have a lot of money to spend. An MLA30, you can buy 2 or 3 of them and say, hey, I'm going to start playing with these. And that's what is happening with me. I got 3 now, 2 original and 1 MLA30 Plus. And I got to say, I want to play around and see what what happens and what we could change in there, honestly. Can we take that MLA 30 and bring it to another level where it's even better? That could be interesting. Old radio man, nice to have you here from Northeast Tennessee. Samuel Peterson from New Mexico. Arthur's Alley Crafter's Kitchen from Massachusetts. Nice to have you here. V3KRP, Fast Eddie in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Bonjour. Nice to have you here. Jeff King, a PL 600, finer radio for the money, but if you can afford more, that's exactly what I was saying. PL 660 would be better. One difference, PL 660 does not mute when tuning. If that is a big problem, PL 660 does not mute when you actually tune the bands. XH Data does. Almost all the DSP-based receivers do, unfortunately. Dear Forestry, have you heard about the new Vanuatu station? I've heard a little bit, but not too much, honestly. You have more news that you can share? Mark Stevens from Western North Carolina. Joseph from Northern California. Mike Hill from Northwest Arkansas. Pretty cool. Good evening, Keegan, XNADXer. Northwest Arkansas. Larry Nigel Lawrence. In the World Radio TV Handbook, times always UTC GMT. Yep, absolutely. David, KJ4CMY. It's 8 p.m. Do you know where your radios are? Norman Smith, nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Matt says, I know why they changed. If there is a local audience that is not hobbyists, that's the way to reach them. Yeah, I understand. I understand. But once you start listening to shortwave, come on. You should know what UTC is and that we rely on that. I mean, if you don't understand UTC, you're kind of doomed on shortwave because all the schedule websites use that. You need to know it from the start. I think if there's a basic knowledge about shortwave listening and amateur radio, anyways, is okay. We live in universal time. We don't live in local time. You know. Keegan says his dad gave him a 2020 World Radio TV Handbook yesterday. Cool. I should have one on Sunday. Sheldon has a couple, and I'm going to purchase one from him. So next week, I probably will have the 2020 WRTH. So, you know. Yeah, a lot of U.S. stations stay entirely on local time. And it is, you know, I remember when I when I was listening to Alan Wiener worldwide, and we did discuss that last time, and I think we pretty much agree of the how can we say it, the quality of the broadcast. But you know what, that drives me crazy. It's okay. Changing our clocks means changing the time of Alan Wiener worldwide show. What? Why? It's like, okay. MV East Coast, nice to have you here from Germany. Dan V or Dan 5, nice to have you here from Ohio. Jean Maglet says in Europe we will switch to summers or daylight savings times. UTC +1 to +2. When do you guys change in Europe? In a couple of weeks? At the end of the month? Mike Hill, I have a little over 40 years shortwave listening. Back in the late 70s, propagation was great with so many stations. You know, there's one thing that I told a friend a couple of months ago. We were talking about shortwave in the 70s or 80s. And one of the things that comes often is, oh, propagation was great. You know what? One of the interesting things about shortwave listening when in the 80s for me, was that we went through solar cycles like we do right now. And I don't think there's been more talk of solar cycles than we are now. Of course, we are in very deep solar cycles. We are in solar cycles that don't peak as high. But you know what? I think one of the main reasons why solar cycles suddenly are so interesting is that what we didn't realize back in the 70s or 80s is that even in the bottom of the solar cycle, there were so many stations that we just almost didn't see solar cycles. Um, People that were really, really more advanced and could see that higher frequencies were propagating would see solar cycles. But honestly, there were so many stations back then that even in the bottom of a solar cycle, I mean, bring back all the stations on shortwave from 1985 tonight. And you're going to see those bands are going to be full of stations. And we're at the bottom of the solar cycle. What we would miss back then is some specific stations, some specific frequencies. But it's interesting because even though, yes, the cycles were very high compared to today, I think we got to be careful not to mix good solar cycles versus so many stations to listen to that you had stations to listen to, even in the doldrum of those cycles back then. And I mean, we would talk about solar propagation and all of that for sure, because it's part of our hobby. But I think we are also not understanding that there were so many stations to listen to that took, we could say we took for granted solar cycles, pretty much. You know, Tom the Youngster from the Hudson Valley, New York. Nice to have you here. Dear Forestry scored 25 on the thumbs up button. I don't know if you guys saw this week, but there was a I don't know if they all went through because I have to approve the comments, but there was a high number of idiot comments. There was one this week there were two this week that posted, "Oh, your Paul the cat is ugly." Yeah, right. I had so many posts this week, comments this week of, "Oh, well, you're dumb. Content is really, really boring. Oh, those reviews are really too long." Yeah. Go get a life. By the way, we reached a milestone on the Shortwave channel. 20,000 subscribers this week. 20,000 subscribers this week on this channel. Not bad for a Shortwave radio channel that's very niche, very unique. Pretty good. I'm happy. Northern Dawn started listening in the early 90s. VTA Radio, nice to have you on board. Yeah, Universal Time, perfect reference. Mike Hill, the vodka and cranberry will prevent any sickness. Absolutely. Coronavirus will go away. David Martin, I want a clock that always shows 6 a.m. at sunrise and 6 p.m. at sunset. Sid Vic, nice to have you on board from Gander, Newfoundland, Canada. Mark Stevens started shortwave listening less than 6 months ago. Are you enjoying the hobby, Mark? So I'm asking you because you're a newbie. Are you enjoying the hobby right now? And give us your impressions. I'd like to read more and know more about your impressions of a guy that's been listening for 6 months only to the shortwave hobby. I mean, I look at, and by the way, I am exactly 22 minutes behind in the chat, so hang in there, guys. Um, I want, if I would have been a newbie today, would I stick with shortwave listening? Let's say that 6 months ago, while going on YouTube, I came across a guy from Canada talking about shortwave radio, listening to the world. Would I be as happy and as excited as in 1982? Now, being an adult and an older man, I think it takes a little more to be probably excited about stuff. I mean, I think when we're young, we're just amazed at the world around us, and every little detail just makes us like, wow, this is so cool. And then you get, to 50. I'll be 51 in exactly a week. And so we're what, 11 today? In exactly 9 days, I will be 51 years old in 9 days on March the 20th, which is Friday of next week, which means we'll be celebrating my birthday on Friday of next week in the show. Would I still be excited and happy and amazed at shortwave? That's something that's interesting too, and it's a question. And so I asked him as a 6 months. So I'm asking Mark Stevens as a 6 months listener if he's excited, what he likes, what his impression is. I'm also I'm going to ask all of you out there that have been listening for a long time. Say you never knew about the hobby, and you came in today, in the past year. Would you have stuck by that same hobby? Would have you been amazed and surprised at the hobby like you did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago? That's an interesting question. I'm part of we had plenty of stuff that happened back then. Kept me there. It kept me excited. Hey, you can listen to Norway, Sweden, Finland. Every European country was there. Tons of African countries. There were specific stations, Tahiti, whatever, Radio Australia. But we had so many things to listen to. Actually, I still remember being, listening back then and thinking, you know what? There's 12 stations at 0 UTC that I like to listen to. I got to choose one because I have no choice. I got one radio. I got to choose one. I'm going to listen to one out of 10, 12, 15 English language broadcasts at 0 UT. We had that choice back then. Today, we don't have that choice. Today, it's more of, in 0 UT, there's, Voice of Vietnam. What else is there at so there was China Radio, but China Radio from Albania is not there. So 0 UT, China Radio isn't there. If you speak different languages, okay, there's a little more choice. I mean, the choices we have today are more limited. Would you guys from the past still be excited at the fact that at 0 UT there's a couple of US stations, a lot of your religious crap, and Voice of Vietnam, and I don't know. Would you guys have stuck into the hobby? If you guys would say, hey, this is so amazing? We are not in the same state. I tried to pick up and push you guys into let's listen and let's do stuff. And a lot of people over time came up to me and says, you know what? Thanks for what you're doing into the hobby. Because in these times of low solar activity and shortwave decline and more noise. I mean, it's more challenging than ever to listen to whatever signal out there. But I'm still here and I'm still telling you guys listen to the radio. And, you know, uh, if I look at what I listened to 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And today, yeah, it's easy to get depressed and say, well, and there's a few of you out there that I see from time to time. And the feel with your comments is always, well, there's not a lot, and brother stairs everywhere. And, well, that's it. It's easy to get into that mood of being depressed when we actually shouldn't. We got to take what we have and we got to take, I think, the basics of we just love radio. Let's get those signals out there. Okay. So let's go down now. Max S. Strong, nice to have you here from Michigan, USA. Um, what else do we have? What else do we have? I'll try to go down as fast as possible. As possible. So we have in Europe, we'll switch to summer. Wait, I saw something here. Okay, Sunday, March 29th. Okay. So last Sunday of March, actually. Okay. Cool, Jean-Marc. Kevin Jane Apollo, WS2H. Nice to have you here. Don't buy an PL990 from AliExpress. Shortwave listening post revealed, not export version, and more importantly, software probably troublesome. There's one thing that we have to remember. The PL990 sold for the Chinese market. Texan did say they would upgrade the firmware and the electronics a little bit. I think what's happening on AliExpress is that $400 radio is the Chinese version. And don't go too crazy on when you're going to get it, because remember that the Chinese factories are in slow motion. So I don't think the real upgraded version of the PL990 is going to be available to North America before maybe late summer, if not fall. And you know what? I don't care how it looks. It's not worth 400 US dollars at all. I'm sorry. Nope. Northern Dawn, difference between the MLA 30 Plus and the MLA 30? Better performance. MLA 30 Plus, better on long wave, medium wave, and better on frequencies above 10 megahertz. It's really, really an improvement in performance. Chuck Yunkin, nice to have you here. Dave Freeman, nice to have you on board from Monroe, New York. And look, I have to find the time, okay, man. But don't worry, I'm working on it. We're good. Someday you'll be happy. You're gonna have that post and know that it's online. But man, I've got too many things going together, and it's very complicated right now. But nice to see you on board. Rob from Phoenix, Arizona. Joe Redmond from Chicago area. Nice to have you here, Joe. Randall Kluntz. Nice to have you here from Chicagoland. What else do we have? What else do we have? What else do we have? Opposite of beer goggles. What else? Miki Delmage. Nice to have you here from Alberta, Canada. Dear Forestry says the new Elite field works amazing on the MLA30 loop. Been blowing my mind how well. Great audio and great signal. Cool. Deer also has the PL660 and it's very sensitive radio with excellent sync capability. That's a keeper. The 680 that Joe has also has the same sync, but it's better on 680. On the 660, sorry. Giuseppe, nice to have you here. VA3 Diello, nice to have you on board. And he's DXing Italy on 40 meters. Cool. What else do we have? What else do we have? Jim from Rhode Island. Nice to have you on board. Larry Stevens from Newark, on Ohio. I almost said Ontario. Newark, Ohio. Nice to have you here. Dear says your reviews are killer. Great. Your reviews are dead on. Thank you very much. Well, I use them. My reviews are based on reality. Using a radio for, I don't know how many people. I don't know how many people tell me, you take a lot of time for the reviews. And I always tell them, well, I take a long time because I test it for real. There's a lot of types of reviews out there. Okay. And I want to take my time because you guys will buy stuff based on my reviews. So if I want you to buy the good stuff, of course I'm going to test it. Of course I'm going to say what's crap is crap. Of course I'm going to tell the positive and negative of everything. I mean, none of us has the perfect radio. There are some great receivers out there, but they all have that little something that, if one company would just come up with, take what's good here, here, and here, put that together, you got a killer radio. As long as it's not $1,000, And so I got to take the time to play around with it. CC Skywave SSB. I got one guy sends me an email, says, well, after 2 days, that thing, you should review it. No, 2 days is not enough. I need to listen to it. I need to, you guys should see. I should post a video of you guys of what I do. You guys should see that sometimes I'm actually at a table and there's like 5 radios, 6 radios, all tuned to the same station. One night I had the CC Skywave, Radio Wow, XH Data, PL680, and what was it? I think it was the Grundig G5, all tuned to the same station. The kind of thing that somebody looks at you and says, wow, you're kind of nuts. What the hell? But it gives me an idea because I listen to every radio and I look at the performance of everyone on the same signal. And that's how you come up with a very fair review. I don't have, look at the Passport to World Band radio. They had like a lab where they would test with, specific parameters how everything is perfect. I don't have that, but I have one other thing. I have 20 radios that I can compare it to. And that gives me a different viewpoint, a different look, a different way of testing. I use my ears, my eyes, and my knowledge, and then I just do a review or something. So my C-Crane Skywave SSB review is out. A lot of you out there have come back to me and said, well, it's very fair. It's pretty much what it is. And yeah, that's what it is. I came back, I got a lot of rant about the, every time I talk about the ICOM ICR30 that nobody should buy. I'm sorry. But I understand one thing. I live in a very harsh radio frequency environment. What I seem to see is that most people that are happy with it don't live in a big city with tons of really strong signals like I do. And what I understand is that, you know what? If you live in the middle of the forest, the Icom ICR30 is a great radio. Yeah, because there's nothing to overload it. Live in a big city, and you'll see the Icom ICR30 is the crappiest thing you can buy for $1,000, or depends where you buy it. In the US is what, 600-700. I mean, I still and will stand by my review, and I will still stand by my comments. You want to buy a $700 radio that overloads everywhere when you're in a big city? Nope. No. 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 I actually am one of the very few people that says and that is standing by ICOM ICR30 is crap for the price paid. That's it. And I got a couple of emails of other people that use it that says, you're dead on. It is crap. And you know what? I'm not changing my mind. It's crap. It's crap. It's a portable crap. I have here in Montreal so many signals that decoding D-Star is a challenge. I got to put my radio in the fridge, on the bottom part of the fridge, and D-Star decodes. You guys are like, yeah, come on. I'm almost not joking. It's crazy. Why? Because the overloading prevents it from performing well. Yes, I played with the RF gain. Yes, I played with the attenuator. But I will tell you one thing. If you got to turn down the gain and the attenuator on a radio to receive some signals, it's a crappy radio from the start. Stop trying to, sugarcoat something like that. I'm tired of that. I don't have to turn down the gain on my $2,000 ICOM ICR85. I'm sure if he had D-Star, it would decode it right away. But it's $2,000. You know what? Stop sugarcoating a radio that is crappy. Well, I put down the gain to RF like, 6 out of 10, and the attenuator at level 1. It's super good. Yeah. Really? You want to desensitize your radio to make it better? I ain't there, and I will never be there, and I don't care if you like it or not. I don't care if I hurt your feelings, because obviously I hurt a lot of people's feelings by saying the ICOM ICR30 is crappy. But Kevin Jane Apollo wasn't happy with it. Dave N9 EWO that does these reviews, that I posted a few links, he's with me on it. It's bad. And I got a few emails from people saying, you're dead on. Stop sugarcoating stuff that's not worth it. Stop saying ICOM makes only great stuff. That's a crappy ICOM radio. Like, ICOM can also do some of the best stuff out there. Okay? Let's stop sugarcoating, and let's be real and tell ICOM that thing's crappy and you need to do better next time. That's it. Cheers, guys. What else do we have? Michael Langer, nice to have you on board from Chicago. Thank you for the congrats on 20,000 subscribers, guys. Pretty cool. Kevin Wood says, stream and chat been dropping out until I realized that I was waiting for microwave popcorn. I was reading medium wave popcorn. You have AM radio popcorn? Matt says, speaking of solar cycle, I had to laugh. Someone was comparing this to the Maunder minimum, which is it's far from being. Absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot of compare of the Maunder minimum with today. It's not the same thing. I mean, the Maunder minimum had cycles, but the Maunder minimum was like really flat, and we're not there. We're not there at all. Mark Stevens, absolutely enjoying DX with his PL880. Super varied listening. Listen to a lot of amateur LSB, a lot. I'm experimenting with many antenna variations. Texan PL880 and is an awesome receiver. Thanks for the answer, Mark. Cool. Ron Hicks, nice to have you here. KM4LDI. Cool, Larry Stevens. This is the place to learn and talk about stuff. And if I'm wrong, people will correct me. Mark Stevens says, I have 8 more years experience on you. Super excited, Joe. Thank you for all the awesome advice. So, Mike Hill, back in the late 70s, I remember being so excited to get into Radio Shack and look at the beautiful, realistic DX160. Saved for quite a while to be able to buy it. Let's be fair. There was that one of the interesting things, the kind of fun things is, saving for that moment we buy our favorite radio. It was kind of exciting the day that you had the money and you would go up to the store and get it and come back home with that big box and that radio in it. It was like you're just like so excited. It's like you can't even describe it. It's just amazing. Fly Bird Go. New to the hobby. HiCom R6 arrives tomorrow. Cool. Sony QSLs, absolutely. Mina Jarbo. Toontastic. Well, I'm from Canada, but there's people from all over the world here. Mark Stevens, remember, Joe, using your SDR, you can record the broadcasts for review listening on your schedule. Yeah, absolutely. Roughest Newt, I was away from the hobby for a long time, only a few years back. I find it fascinating. Number stations, weather facts, it's cool. Tom the Xer started listening in 1965. I wasn't even born. I was born in 1969. Crazy. Ryan started DXing when he was 13 on FM with Spurtic E. Only been shortwave DXing about 2 years now and love it. Cool. Matt says, if you've grown up, whoops. I just go back, trying to go down. Matt says, if you've grown up with the internet and all the choices available there, plus the ability to communicate worldwide, it would probably be hard to see what makes shortwave appealing. The worldwide reach of shortwave is precisely what excited me about it when I first encountered it in the 80s. Northern Dawn, what was the bands like then? They were full of signals. The problem back then, Northern Dawn, was it was difficult to tune around to find a signal that was listenable because there was too many stations jam-packed one next to each other. And that's where you needed a good radio to be able to separate all of that. That was the difficulty. The difficulty today? Noise. Noise is the difficulty today. And back then, noise wasn't a problem much. But so many stations, if your radio was crappy in selectivity, and our DX100 was one of those, it was difficult to tune because there were stations, 5 kilohertz apart. Every channel was jam-packed with something. Mike Hill, what kind of radio did you start with? Oh, Tom the Xer. Okay. Chuck Inkin, 57 years of shortwave listening. Take care, Esteban. See you Friday. Foolstrot from Lanaudière, Quebec. Bienvenue. Nice to have you here. That says, I know that although I wasn't able to really get into shortwave the way that I wanted as a youth, getting into it in my middle age tapped into what I felt back then. Kevin Wood got a Night Ocean Hopper in 1966. Wow. Bobby Burgess started hobby in 2017, thanks to you. Well, you know what? If you're enjoying it and that's something that you find really cool, I'm happy. I've done something that's really nice. So Alex Jones got arrested for DUI. Really? Okay, I didn't know that. And it doesn't surprise me, anyways. Ron Hicks started G. Scott died back in 2005, but he's still alive on the shortwave. Yeah, absolutely. Gaetan Belil, new shortwave listener. It is a nice hobby, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. When you go to Matt was talking about Brother Stairs that will live on the same way, but you know what? I stumbled across the Brother Stairs broadcast about a week or two ago where he was talking about how he was having a lot of difficulty and that people were trying to get him off the air. And I was listening to what he was saying and his rant, because when he rants is pretty much the only time that I listen to because I find it interesting. Like when he ranted against Glenn Hauser, answering back to Glenn Hauser. And you look at that and you're like, yeah, the only reason I don't emit too much of an opinion on Brother Stare is mostly because if it keeps the shortwave stations alive with all his millions, you know what? Hey, stations are there because of that. For the rest, if he's gone tomorrow morning, I don't think I'm going to be one of the guys going to really, cry or anything. No more Brother Stare tomorrow. Yeah, yesterday I was surprised. Well, I shouldn't have been surprised, but I did that AM radio band scan. And by the way, there's another one coming tonight with HDR turned on, high dynamic range, because last night it was not. And I don't remember what frequency on medium wave. There was a medium wave frequency where I stumbled across Brother Stare, and I was like, oh, look at that. Brother Stare on medium wave. Wow. Terry Cook, I've always been more attracted to utility communications rather than broadcasting. I wish that more of the digital signals were unencrypted to make up for the stuff that I've moved away from HF. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. I'm extra. Nice to have you here. W5BL from Central Texas. Dave Todd from Niagara. Better late than ever. Absolutely. Skip Davis. Nice to have you here. Andy Fun 2010. Nice to have you here from Germany. Pretty cool. Skip Davis is from Yukon, Oklahoma. Bullfrog 89, KD2CXU from Albany, New York. Going well. College is extending spring break by 2 weeks. Interesting. Here, the city of Montreal has been put into alert level because of the coronavirus. And there's been tons of things that been... anyways, let's not talk about that. We're heard everywhere. Let's talk about the radio. Mark Stevens, Matt, does the PL680 have the same sync as PL660? From what I see, because I don't have a 660, but I've heard that the 680 sync is a little better. But I also heard that the PL660 sync is quite good. Ryan says your reviews are great. Help me a lot with the XH Data D808. Cool. James Farley, nice to have you here from New Jersey. Ron Hicks, I haven't seen Paul the Cat lately. Wanted to ask if Paul was a mouse DXer. He's right behind the camera, sleeping in his chair on my YouTube hoodie. Pretty crazy. Stephen Burish, 69 years, still studying for the ham test. Maybe someday I'll pass it. Why not? Why not? Dr. Sisop, nice to have you on board. WWV and CHU check time. Well, we're going to do that. I'm just going to go down the list. We're going to check a few things. Bullfrog 89, I appreciate your review style, Jill, especially how you post different radio performance at similar times. Well, that's, those, that Bokuha, whatever. I don't know what you, where you are, and please, English, please. Please. And here we go. Let's take a few seconds to, once again, show the mascot. So the mascot is there. Normally I'm that side, but tonight I'm on this side. That's what's happening. So let's go back. Mr. Paul the Cat is in the house. Nerdy Gray Fox, nice to have you on board, Emile. Toujours un plaisir, Emile. The earth is flat between Kenora, Ontario and Calgary. Also, the best time for shortwave listening is during power failure. It happened to me yesterday. A power failure. I mean, I think we're the only ones that are super happy. The only ones that, if there's a power outage and everybody are just going crazy, I'm the one that's happy and yes, listening to signals I don't hear. Matt, I've been making observations with the MLA30 and G5RV, both plugged into the RSPDX, and see how one receives better. And nothing has physically changed with the antenna. Cool. Mike Hill, $1,000 for money for a problem radio for sure. Yeah, it is a lot of money. Absolutely. Ron Hicks, yeah, take the time, save your money, get yourself an XH data. You'll have a great radio for sure. One of the questions tonight is very interesting. And you know what? Since you are actually asking that, I will check it out and answer it right now. So we have Stewart that is in the state of Florida that doesn't really, isn't participating in the chat room and anything. His question, and it's an interesting one. His question is, we all know that there are different budgets depending on the people out there. Okay. We don't all have the same, capacity of buying a radio. So his question is actually separated in several sections. What radio do you recommend below $40? What radio do you recommend below $100? And what radio do you recommend below $150? So below, okay, in the first $40, I would say that if you do have to buy a radio below $40, analog, it'll have the Texan R9012. That is a pleasant surprise. It's analog, but it's sensitive, and you'll get the main stations and everything on it. It's pretty interesting. Below 100, I would go with the XH data is just barely. It's like it's depending on where you buy it. Some people have purchased it for below 100, but it seems to be more like an 100, 120. If you don't like, if you don't want, if you don't like, if you don't want or don't need SSB or single sideband, get yourself a Texan PL 380, or even better, a RadiWow R108. That one is below 100. I should look at the prices in 2020 to see what and put them in categories again, because prices go up slowly, and with the Canadian dollar exchange, it's sometimes a little difficult to really pin down what should be, some of the best radios. But I'm sure that maybe a Texan PL 660, I think that's below 100, and that's a great radio, and it has single sideband on it. And below 150, XH Data D808, Texan PL 660 are amazing radios. They all have single sideband. Let me think here. Anything else worth mentioning below these prices? Let me think about it. That's kind of interesting. Dr. Sisup. He's got a new 2020 GM car stereo that overloads when close to FM tower. I hear on AM bleed. Wow. Edvaldo Lemes, nice to have you here from Brazil. Nice to have you on board. PY 4001 SWL. Randall says to see Paul, go back to the 23-minute mark. Dr. Sisop is ICOM 7300. Here's some FM bleed through. So you must have some really, really powerful FM is going through and bleeding through. Matt says, I need a drink after that. Well, if it's crappy, it's because it's crappy. I'm not going to tell you that a radio is amazing when it's not. I'm so sorry, but I can't. Mike Hill, I heard the NRD 515 was a great DX machine. Almost every radio from that company were pretty much good. The NRD 515, 525, the JRC, Japan Radio Corporation. I don't think they did a crappy radio ever in their lives. I think everything is good. They're asking for a pretty hefty price. Icadarius, how do you say your name? Gilles. Okay, so let's listen. Everybody, there's a course. And Sheldon was telling me how people don't know how to pronounce my name. So let's do a course together, okay, everybody? So you guys know Jack and Jill, but the Jill is a little harsh. My name is a soft G. So it's Gilles. So my first name is Gilles. Now, everybody together, and I actually see you guys in your basements or whatever doing it. So everybody together, Gilles. I just heard like tons of voices. So Gilles is how you pronounce my name. It's a French name because I am, I was born French Canadian. I started speaking English. I don't know, I was about 6 or 7 years old. Before that, my main language was French. So, and I was pleasantly surprised. Sheldon Harvey was telling me how my English is actually pretty amazing for a guy that didn't start out as a English speaking person. And he says that my vocabulary is actually pretty good in English. So hopefully, I'm not perfect. I mean, there are words I'm not sure how to pronounce, and but I do my best. I hope it's good. I think it's good enough, for a guy that speaks French from the start. And 4765, 4765, which is Radio Progreso from Cuba. About S9 here. Not too bad. Let's try it on the W6LVP. Almost nowhere. Original MLA30. Not too bad. Actually, the original MLA30 and the MLA30 Plus are pretty much the same on 4765. So it's not super strong. I hear it stronger usually, but it's there. Radio Progreso. Chuck Yunkin. Well, they had one. They made the ICOM ICR 75, which was a very good and very decent shortwave radio, which unfortunately discontinued. What else do we have? Well, it's kind of difficult, James Farley, to switch the positions. I could do it. But you know what? I don't think it's worth it. I don't think there's a need for that. Mike Hill, we still have a locally owned Radio Shack here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Wow. Radio Shack. Yes, I also miss Radio Shack. Where Radio Shack was here, the Radio Shack that I go to when I was young, right now is the Source. So here Radio Shack in Canada was purchased by the Source by Circuit City, which became the Source. But it's not the same thing. It's not a Radio Shack. Radio Shack was really, really cool. Absolutely. Icomic 40s agrees with Mark Stevens. PL 880. Awesome radio. Cool. Craig Turner. I'm not from Oklahoma. I'm from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Andrew Murphy decoded his first set of weather facts. Cool. You know what? That's always kind of cool. The first time you just decode some digital mode and you're like, oh, woohoo, I got it. Keegan got the radio in January 2019. Andy Tobin, nice to have you here. Like their SysOp, DAB radio is going to be available by 2022. Yeah, we're going to see that. Is what I hate about all of that is that if they switch off the analog signal, you just made millions of radios obsolete. And what they don't understand is that it won't fix the fact that you got crappy programming, and that's it. Tom DXer says amateur astronomers also love power outages. Yes, I'm pretty sure. Without that with all that light pollution. Pretty sure. Keegan says power outage here this morning. Listen to 10,000 kilohertz WWV and WWVH in the background on 15,000 kilohertz also on the Ethan Grenig Field BT with batteries. Oh, man. Nerdy Gray Fox, I like your reviews because they are fair and honest. Keep doing what you love. I think it resonates with us all. Yeah, I think so. Good night, Rodolfo65. It was nice to have you on board. Travel U.S. European Union to U.S. suspended for 30 days. Wow, crazy. We had a, it makes you think because I take the subway and everything, and there was a coronavirus patient that took the subway in Montreal this week, which means maybe a lot of people now are infected or something. Jeff King with no SSB. I like the Texan PL 390, $60 US. Terry Cook, see you Friday. And Don got a Radawauer for $59 Canadian. Well, you know what's the problem with the V115 Echidarius is it's very high background noise. And here in the Montreal city where FM stations break through everywhere, it's kind of a hard, it's kind of difficult to really, tune anything without FM breakthrough, honestly. What else do we have? What else do we have? No, it's not Radio Peace in Progresso. It's just Progresso. Robin 133. Nice to have you here. Yeah, 4765 is Radio Progresso from Cuba. It's there every night, pretty much. Anthony Andreola. Yes, this is a SDR play, RSPDX SDR that I'm using on my computer with the MLA. Well, actually, each antenna port is right now used. So antenna A is W6LVP. The antenna B is the original MLA 30, and antenna C is the MLA 30 plus. XPFTP says Astro Imager. Yes, city lights. You know what? I watched the skies with a 6-inch telescope for many years. And man, when I would go out of the city, I would be so happy. City was so crappy when you tried to watch the skies. Dave Todd Mrs. Radio Shack wanted a mono 3.5 millimeter plug for a wire antenna. XH Data had to get it from Amazon. Yeah, that's how we got to go now. There's no choice anymore. So the FM will be expanding from 6 to 64 to 108 if FCC approves it by 2022. Huh. Jojo Kunanen says, great video, very helpful, new to your channel. Any comments on the Kenwood R5000 73's KM6EH day from Los Alamitos, California? Look, the Kenwood R5000 is an amazing radio, but keep in mind, it's an old radio. I've owned one from about 1990 to 2010, roughly. If you do purchase one, make sure it doesn't have the DOS problem or the because it has several flaws over time. Key bounce, And remember that over if you buy one, even though it doesn't have that over 20, 30 years of use, it can be maybe the capacitors need to be changed and so on. But overall, and the years that I've used it, the Kenwood R5000 is an amazing radio. Okay. The one I had is so if you guys know Fast Load in the chat room, he's the one that's owning it right now. He repaired the radio. I actually purchased an ICOM R8500 when my Kenwood R5000 started going crazy with the PLL unlock due to the dots problem. And I gotta say, it's so good on shortwave that I immediately noticed that the ICOM ICRD 500, although it's good, is not as good on shortwave. Sorry, guys. Okay. So, but it's a good radio. And if you buy one used, make sure that you test it out and make sure that it's really, really working well. Because it's got several problems over years. Sorry, guys. False Trot says I got an Emerson ATS 803 for $20 today. Cool radio. Have fun with it. $20, man, you can't go wrong. G11, nice to have you on board. Tell somebody US, nice to have you here from Brazil. Harry Presley, just getting started in ham with a Kenwood TM 201B, be a good 2-meter start. It was a gift. So anybody have an opinion on the Kenwood Tango Mike 201 Bravo? Just to let Harry know how it is, if it's good or not. Carlos Eduardo Bueno, nice to have you here from Brazil. I have one thing to say on because we all ask everybody. We always ask if a radio is good or not, and definitely there's crappy radios out there. There's good radios out there, and we gotta take a decision at some point. And sometimes it's a question of we got it. Somebody gave us something, a radio of some sort. For sure, there are some radios out there that will, and I don't know. I'd be interested to see how many people left the hobby or never went into the hobby because the only thing they ever got in their hands was a crappy radio. And I'm sure there's a lot of that. You know what? I'm sure we would be a lot more, there would be a lot more people enjoying our hobby today if it wasn't the fact that the first radio they ever received in their lives was the worst thing that exists on the planet. But that said, where there's no perfect radio, and except from the category of really crappy stuff, whatever we have, and I would say a big chunk of radios are in the mid categories of they're okay, they're not perfect, they're not the best, they have flaws, but we gotta just enjoy what we have with the what the limits of the radio itself. And that's it. We gotta be careful, not everybody has the same radio. We don't have all the money to buy the best out there. But we gotta enjoy our hobby with what we have. And like I always say, I'd rather see somebody with a $50 radio that's really, really, really having a lot of fun and tripping with the hobby than somebody with a $2,000 radio that is on the shelf and never used. And I've seen that so many times. Sue. Keegan has the BBC 17640 this morning. Wow. Cool. G-Bone 1 says my first R5000 quit on me, then I got the TS440S. And then he got another R5000. What else do we have? Yeah, that is absolutely G-Bone 1. Except for the crap stuff, a good radio is very subjective. Absolutely. They've taught 35 feet of wire, 10 feet of the ground, out a window to a tree, made a dramatic difference to the XH data on ham band. You know. G-Bone 1, what's good to one guy may not be good for others. It's possible. Gaetan Belil. So, whatever loop you buy, okay? So, MLA30, a Walbrook, a W6LVP, they're all in one category that are amplified magnetic loop antennas. Is the orientation important? It depends on what you're listening to. And that's the thing. You're a long wave, medium wave, or AM band listener. Not only is it important, but you'll need to have a rotor to change its position while you're tuning the bands. You have to. You have to. Why? Because these stations, and you know, use a little portable AM radio, and you'll immediately see that the ferrite inside, which is very directional, has a it changes everything as you turn the radio. So a loop antenna is very directional, so it has the same capability. So the MLA30 orientation for long wave and medium wave, super important. Where it's not as important is on shortwave, although it is. And I'll explain what's important on shortwave. So last summer, I played with my loops, and that sounds kinky, actually. I played with my loops. So what happened is I used my SDR play, RSP1A at the time. And with remote desktop, I had my laptop, and I could actually manually turn the loop. And on shortwave, positioning the loop doesn't change that much of the signals. Signals that come on shortwave actually bounce off and do so many things that the orientation doesn't change too much of it. So on shortwave, what you'll want to do is position the loop for the lowest noise rather than anything else. So what you do is you put the loop there, and you orient it until you have the lowest noise floor possible, and you just leave it like that. And actually, the W6LVP loop gets has a little instruction booklet on it, and what it says is, for most people, the loop orientation is the lowest noise possible. You don't care about the rest. Lowest noise possible is the only thing you're actually really looking for. Keegan, 5,000 kilohertz WWV. Let's try it here. 5000. It's there. It's not very strong, but it's there. Let's just see WTWW. So if you want to listen to an amateur radio show, 5085 WTWW, talking about amateur radio stuff. Pretty good signal here. XPFTP says a radio will never please everyone at once. You will always have some, but there's like I was saying, there's no perfect radio, you know. And I mean, we got to just use one and say, well, that's the one I like, you know. But there's no perfect radio, honestly. There's really no perfect radio. Nerdy Gray Fox, any piece of equipment is a learning curve and adaptation time. Radio can be crappy, but with a little will, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I when I listened today to my Realistic DX100. Wow, it's such a crappy radio that Radio Shack sold back then. But thanks to the fact there was a lot of signals, I just, and I was amazed and struck at how amazing all of the hobby was. I stuck with it and was happy, actually. David Martin, TRS-80 t-shirts. Oh man. Dave O'Toole says I almost didn't get into shortwave thanks to an awful Roberts analog dial shortwave. Have you always had a beard? No. I've been a long time without one. Actually, I always joke to everybody that I have a teenager beard that doesn't grow very well. Like there's Sysop WWV on 25. Really? Wow. G-Bone 1, Jill Loop Fetish. That sounds so weird. Loop Fetish. Oh, God. Keegan, 3330 CHU S9 Plus. Let's check it out here if we got CHU. Yeah, pretty good. Oh, there's a 3330. CHU, not bad at all. Not bad at all. Hey, Kimberly, K6YYL from California. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? Orbiter 221. No, never received a Ghost satellite. Those are really really difficult to receive unless you've got some really low noise amplifier for the frequencies that they are on. But I received NOAA weather satellites that are low Earth orbit satellites. That's for sure. So as I'm down in the chat, we will talk about and actually look at some of the questions that we've got. Important questions, things that will change your lives of radio. Okay, we've got Amanda that is watching from the state of New York, and she says that she's been watching for a while, and she has a portable receiver that was given to her by her husband, and she listened to FM and AM all the time, and she's enjoying it. And there's something that's called SW, and she says that she understands what it means only recently when somebody says, well, that's shortwave. So she doesn't give the brand or anything, but she says, I tune around, I hear weird noises, but I was actually, what she's saying, she stumbled upon my show a couple of weeks ago and understood that I was probably talking about that SW thing. And she says, what can I do to improve reception? That maybe I'll receive signals. And thanks for your question. And well, you know what? One of the biggest, probably the biggest challenge, I think is the biggest challenge of any shortwave listener is noise. And it's difficult to explain noise to everybody. It's difficult to explain noise to people that don't listen to the radio. It's difficult to try to, you know, because I mean, what's difficult in here is, everybody turned on the radio and heard just static. So when you turn on the radio in 2020 and hear static, for most people, and if you've been listening a long time, you know that, well, there was static in 1980. The problem is the static in 2020 is man-made. A lot of it is man-made. While in 1980, it was pretty much natural in its sources, which meant that in 1980, a signal would go through easy, when in 2020, maybe it's washed out because of that static. So, what I would say, the first thing you should do, if you've got a place you can go with that radio outside of houses and outside of that neighborhood, even if it's just a park where you're going to be like, 30, 40, 50 feet away from houses, try it there. If it's a portable radio, of course. You might see that you receive tons of stuff in that SW or shortwave band that you don't receive usually. The other thing you can try is to put a piece of wire outside a window or something and hook it up to that telescopic antenna on the radio. Maybe that will help also. But it's it's difficult, to help anybody with radio problems. I mean, I'm at the forefront of people coming back to me and saying, I got that, ratty R108 because of you, and I don't get any signals, so it must be really bad. No. I got somebody today said, well, I don't have any signals that are listenable on my MLA30. It's possible that it's defective. Maybe you got a bad MLA30. Everything's possible. Absolutely. But honestly, maybe even for somebody that has an MLA30, because loops are not, I said it so many times, loops are not a magic tool. I don't think everybody will find that it's amazing. But depending on where you live and how everything is around you, it's possible. It's possible that you're not getting the signals and you're not getting whatever you want to listen to. Like everybody that buys an MLA30 loop or whatever loop, if you live in a quiet environment, don't come telling me, well, my 250 feet of wire in the forest is better, because you're comparing stuff that you can't compare. A loop is a loop. It has its properties. It has its capacity of, in an urban environment like I live to right here, of being a great antenna and helping out. But they're not magical antennas either, and that's what you gotta think about. But it'd be interesting that you actually would come back and say, hey, I've got that radio. You asked for what radio you have, and this is the radio I got. because it'd be interesting to know what radio you have. Okay. SW, what's that? Dave Todd's getting WWV on 2.5. Casper Peterson, nice to have you here, my friend. William Helms from Florida, nice to have you on board. Keegan, 60, let's try it at 67.54. Do I have? I've got absolutely nothing here. 67.54, which is Trenton Military in Ontario, Canada. Nothing here on my radio. My antenna wire is down. The wind took it. Oh, man. That happens. I still remember the story. One of the funny stories is when I put up 100 feet of wires, and there was an ice storm. No, not even. It was a thunderstorm. Really strong thunderstorm with a lot of winds. And I didn't notice, but my 100 feet of wire was on the ground. And the and the landlord came with his he came to mow the lawn. And I'm hearing the lawnmower like, and this thing I hear, I'm like, what was that? He hit a rock or something? I go in the back, and he's unwinding wire that's stuck under the lawnmower. It's like, oh shit, my 100 feet of wires on the ground. He was mowing the lawn, it was just stuck in there. It's like, oops, I'm sorry. Oh man, life is life. No. Linux DOS, been watching your digital and other videos on digital modes. Good job. Thank you very much. Dave Todd, hearing a station, I assume a plane calling Trenton on 11232, sorry. 11232 is, I believe, one of the Canadian Air Force frequencies. So you might be hearing some Canadian Air Force stuff in there. Absolutely. That's the thing, MDK too. You know what? Honestly, I'll be very fair. When I got my W6LVP loop, everybody was talking to me about amplified magnetic loops, and they were magical antennas. Everybody, so many people in the chat room said, "Oh, you got to get that. It's gonna be amazing," And I finally caved in. I got a W6LVP, and when I got it, I mean, once again, for those that didn't see the story, W6LVP was $250 US plus power inserter and whatever else needed. It makes it $350 US. Then Larry, W6LVP, came up to me and says, well, you got strong FM and AM signals. You got to put those filters in, or else you're going to overload. Had it $80. So we're now at $430 US. Now, add to that exchange rate. We're at 525 Canadian dollars. It arrived here. I had to pay my taxes on it. We're at 600 Canadian dollars, which is a lot of damn money. 600 Canadian dollars. So I think we're all the same. When we pay money for something, we expect performance versus the amount of money paid. And so many people tell me, oh, it's amazing. You're gonna, that noise is gonna go away. You're gonna be in a magical fairyland of shortwave. And so I thought, okay, let's go for it. And of course, one of the reasons I went for it also is to show it here, be fair, and talk about it. And I installed the W6LVP. I turned on my radio. Yeah, it was better. It was better. Was it $600 better? No. It was just a little better. And so when I always say these are not magical antennas, that's what I mean. Anybody out there that needs to buy a loop, I am staying with my ground. Stop wasting your money on a Wellbrook or on a W6LVP. Because I'm sorry, I'm far from convinced that any of these two antennas are better enough to mean that you got to waste all of that money on them. The MLA30 is $40 US. And it kicks ass real well. And I'm standing by that. Honestly, I'm happy for the W6LVP for one thing. I was able to compare it to the MLA30. So here on that on the channel, I got tests, side-by-side tests. That's the MLA30. That's the W6LVP. Is it that much better? Is it that? And so it's $44 US that I paid for it. So is it $500-ish better? No, it's not. And I still stand my ground that these loops, W6LVP and Walbrooks, are way overpriced for what they are. And sorry, can't tell anyone to buy them. But you know what? $40, $45. You got an MLA30? Hey, what do you got to lose? $45? What do you got to lose? I mean, come on. For that price, you might just notice that you got something amazing out there. And the MLA30 Plus is even more amazing. So if you got that, that's the thing. And don't forget, guys, about another thing here. Some of us have the money to buy stuff. I bought a $600 antenna, and I got tons of rant of people saying, hey, you're asking for donations, but you got a $600 antenna and $2,000 radio. You know what? We don't all have the same possibilities. It's unfortunate, but that's life. What I would like to say here is that this channel, what I'm trying to do and what I want to do is let's have the best performance versus the price paid for a device. That's why I got tons of radios I reviewed. You guys can see some of the best radios out there for barely $100 that beat the hell out of so many other radios. Remember that a lot of people don't want to spend a lot of money on the hobby. It's like that. It's always been like that. And I'm happy with the MLA30 for that reason. It brings a really amazing option to people that don't have a lot of money to spend. And, that's how we're going to get people back into the hobby. So tell someone you got to buy that $1,000 radio and that $600 antenna, and you just lost them. You just lost them. Yeah, $1,600 to listen to static. Yeah, right. No. And that's why I'm here. I want to try to bring to the hobby that affordable side. I'm tired. I hear so many people ranting at me about, yeah, you keep talking about that Chinese junk. I'm sorry, there's a lot of US junk, there's a lot of European Union junk, a lot of Canadian junk. China is kicking our butt, and that's it. Just accept it. Yes, they made some crappy stuff, like Japan makes crappy stuff in the past, and today they're amazing. Um, you know, stop thinking we're all the best in the world, and stop accepting that, somebody somewhere is kicking our butt. And we've got some interesting choices now. There was a ham radio forum that I was watching and reading stuff. Somebody out there started saying, "Oh, have you seen that cheap Chinese crap that people are talking, the MLA 30?" And, it was just people ranting. It was like, yeah, nobody owns one. They're ranting at, yeah, I'm going to buy American. I mean, come on, that cheap Chinese whatever. Yeah. Continue thinking like that and lose your money if you want. But I'm going to tell you one thing, that MLA 30, it kicks butt. It kicks everybody's butt. And the MLA 30 Plus kicks the butt even more. You got a choice. Do whatever you want. That's all I'm going to say. What else do we have? What else do we have? Let's go down. Let's go down and check it out. ET Radio 72, Paul AA1SU from Essex Junction, Vermont. Take care, my friends. Matt says, at the time, the W6 LVP was a good deal, not counting what you lost on exchange rate. And yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you know what? If you're in the US and you get a W6 LVP for, let's say that you pay $350. It's expensive, but it's still different. But you know what? I can't tell anybody to buy that anymore. At all. David Martin. My favorite amusement park, Six Flags, Pickle Barrel Falls, and Magic Shortwave Fairyland. Would you guys go to a a amusement park called Magic Shortwave Fairyland? That'd be nice. You are now in the tunnel of shortwave love. This is Voice of America with special English. The comic 40s, 600 Canadian, 672 Australian dollars. William Powell, absolutely. Mike Hill, where do you buy the MLA 30? Well, I got, look at my videos. I got a ton of links of where I purchased it personally, but best deals are on eBay, really. Northern Dawn, you need a power supply for the loop for the bias T. So, it comes with a USB cable. If you have a little USB, like little power plug that has a USB port on it, like your phone's charger, works great. Ron Wild, difference between the MLA 30 and MLA 30 Plus. MLA 30 Plus is a better performer on long wave, medium wave, and a better performer above 10 megahertz. It's really better, really better. eBay, William Powell. Buy on eBay. Angie Walker, watch anybody you like on anything you like. What? What are you talking about? Mike Hill, Shortwave Theme Park, I'd go. And now you are at the Voice of Turkey Waterfalls. And now Welcome to the Solar Cycle roller coaster. Today we got extra solar cycles. We'll call it the Maunder Minimum. I like that. The Maunder Minimum roller coaster. Got that really deep dive. You'll have the years, like 1958, where you go like skyrocket in the sky and you fall into the Maunder Minimum. Wow, that'd be a fun, really fun theme park, actually. Tom DX or NBA suspends. Yeah, I mean, everybody's suspending everything. A lot of stuff, I can tell you that. So crazy. Matt says, I had to look up my original invoice. My W6 LVP was 360. I can say this, there's no need for the filters. If you get those little RTL SDR band blocking filters, they work well for $15. I wish I didn't have the filters, because I actually am a little pissed off they're on now. Ron Wall doing the BNC modifications. Cool. Keegan, 13840, rated in New Zealand. Let's try it out here just for the fun of it. 13840. Got absolutely nothing. Still too early here in the East Coast for that. Mike Hill, wouldn't be surprised if they extend our upcoming spring break beyond the 1 week. Yeah, really complicated what's happening. I can tell you that. William Helms, doorbell transforming on my Solar Star juicer motor winding. Building your own stuff is good too. Absolutely. M. Phillips, not getting 13840. Yeah. Towards the East Coast, it's later in the. We'll have 13840, but like in late April or in the month of May, probably. So, hey guys, we've been on for 2 hours and 6 minutes. Hope you enjoyed the show today. I'm going to take it easy for tonight. Got a big day tomorrow. Got to wake up early, and we'll be back Friday. And remember, Friday is nostalgia. Friday, we're going back in the 80s, 70s, and we're listening to stuff that was available back then. I'm going to have a lot of things, and we're going to talk about some stuff from the past. If you are and have been listening for 20, 30, 40 years, you're going to be really nostalgic, missing those old times. And if you are new to the hobby, you're going to have a little glimpse of what it's all about. What it's all about. What we had and what we listened to back then. For the rest, don't forget, Facebook group, official SWL channel. Okay? And that's where you can continue the discussion, share pictures, and have fun with everybody. And like I said, I don't ask for donations anymore. It doesn't mean you can't. If you want to do one, please do. But for now, it's okay. Take care, everybody. Hope you enjoyed today's show. See you soon. Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, 20 hours Universal Time. Hey, G. Brendan. Take care, my friend. Thanks, everybody, for being great fans. And see you soon on the Shortwave channel.